Okay, so let's unpack this. Sometimes the biggest headlines are just, well, the tip of the iceberg, right?
Oh,
We've all seen the news about UK's Keir Starmer meeting with Donald Trump, but what really happened behind closed doors?
right. That's the key question.
That's our mission today.
Yeah.
We're going beyond the carefully crafted public statements to explore the complex diplomatic dance around Ukraine and Gaza and what it all truly means for you and the broader geopolitical landscape.
Yeah.
This isn't just like a report on a meeting, it's a nuanced exploration. Public facade versus the crucial private negotiations, aiming to pull out the key insights you need to understand what actually transpired and why it matters so profoundly.
And what's fascinating here is how multi-layered diplomacy operates, especially in such a high-stakes encounter like this one.
Exactly.
The public display isn't just window dressing, it's a strategic battlefield. Every carefully chosen word, every staged photo, it's all designed to shape the narrative.
Right, to sort
Uh,
of preempt things.
Yeah, it's exactly. To pave the way for a much more difficult private agenda, often. Deciphering those overt pronouncements against the subtle cues in the private talks.
Yeah,
That's crucial for grasping the true outcomes.
yeah.
It's really about managing expectations long before the real work even begins.
You've hit on something important there. Let's start with what everyone saw. The public face of this visit was incredibly carefully managed.
Very controlled.
Downing Street had a very clear message they wanted to project. Starmer, frankly, our sources say, emerged relieved from that second state visit described perfectly as the bear traps were sidestepped, the fireworks stayed unlit,
A success in that
a
sense.
success in avoiding disaster, yeah.
Yeah.
They wanted to present Britain as Washington's indispensable partner across crucial areas like defense, trade, technology,
The whole spectrum.
the whole thing. And Trump, well, he played his part, got those great pictures he loves, and showed what was called unusually low wattage behavior.
Which is notable in itself.
It really is. So what does this meticulous, almost placid public image tell us about the immediate diplomatic goals? For both sides, was it purely about avoiding gaffes, or maybe a more subtle message to others?
Oh, it's definitely more than just avoiding gaffes. I'd argue it was a deliberate attempt to project stability and partnership. Almost to counter any preconceptions about Trump's unpredictability.
Right, to show things could work.
Exactly. For Starmer, it was about demonstrating that a Labor government could maintain strong ties with a potential Trump administration, reassuring allies, investors.
Makes sense. And for Trump?
Well, for Trump, it allowed him to show a more presidential, maybe statesman-like facade. If we connect this to the bigger picture, controlling that public narrative can often be a huge victory in itself.
Especially with unpredictable figures.
Precisely. So the fact they managed to project this image of calm and partnership, despite all the potential for volatility, signals a really calculated effort from both leaders to lay a foundation.
So that initial perception helps smooth the path for the tougher stuff later.
It can. It really can. It's a strategic win for both, you could say.
Okay, but even with that carefully choreographed calm, you can only hold back so much, right?
Always.
There were a couple of public moments where the ice definitely got thin, weren't there? Let's talk about those flashpoints.
Okay.
On Gaza, for instance, Trump distanced himself from Starmer's plan to recognize a Palestinian state. Now, our source notes his objections were couched in careful terms, but the distance was clear.
Careful but clear.
And then there was what was called the most undiplomatic moment. Trump suggesting Britain should deploy the military to stop migrants crossing the channel,
Wow. Yeah, that's poignant.
characterized as a clear provocation. How do these public remarks, even seemingly minor ones, act as indicators of deeper issues, maybe unresolved disagreements behind closed doors?
Yeah, this raises an important question about the limits of control, doesn't it? Even with Starmer's careful planning.
Right. You can't script everything.
Exactly. While the overall public display aimed for calm, these specific moments show where underlying tensions just surfaced. Trump, as the source indicates, he does have this tendency, doesn't he, to inject politically charged statements into these encounters.
He does. For various audiences.
For domestic or international messaging, yeah.
Mhm.
Even those careful terms on Palestine can't entirely mask a fundamental disagreement. And his comment on migration, that was a clear example of him pressing a button he knew would resonate,
With certain groups, yeah.
both at home and abroad. It signals that while the optics were managed, the substance of disagreement couldn't always be entirely hidden. These weren't just slips of the tongue.
No, likely deliberate.
Probably deliberate probes or statements of position.
Yeah.
Testing the waters, sending a message beyond the room.
That makes perfect sense. So with those public tensions sort of bubbling under, it feels like the real test, the actual substance of the visit, had to happen behind those closed doors.
Absolutely. That's where the core issues lie.
Our sources described these private talks as the real test. Starmer's core strategy here was incredibly ambitious. Basically, locate any scrap of common ground and build on it.
Which sounds sensible, but difficult.
Very. And he also faced this equally challenging dual objective to challenge Trump's faith in Vladimir Putin and his indulgence of Benjamin Netanyahu.
Wow. Okay.
Trying to shift viewpoints on two such entrenched, polarizing figures. I mean, that sounds like a diplomatic Everest.
It truly was. What's fascinating here is the sheer audacity, really, the ambition of Starmer's objectives.
Yeah.
To try and shift someone like Donald Trump's established positions, particularly on figures as central to his worldview as Putin and Netanyahu. That's an extraordinarily difficult diplomatic balancing act.
I meant.
It required navigating deeply ingrained viewpoints, and a known resistance to external persuasion.
Yeah.
This wasn't about minor policy treats.
No, this was fundamental stuff.
It was an attempt to influence core foreign policy orientations that have really defined Trump's approach. So those private discussions, they had to be far more than just pleasantries. It was an attempt at fundamental persuasion.
Which makes the strategy behind them so critical.
Incredibly significant, yes.
Okay, let's dig into Gaza first then. Because the source material makes it clear this was an uphill battle for alignment.
Very challenging.
The public signs were bleak for any significant progress. When Trump was asked directly by ITV if he alone could halt the destruction, he just reverted to 7 October, insisting Hamas must release all hostages at once.
Right. A very firm public line.
Which leaves Starmer with what's described as an uphill task in this area. It sounds pretty unyielding on the surface.
And this is where the broader context becomes vital. And that gap between public statements and maybe private interest becomes critical. While Starmer faces this significant challenge, the source also points out that Arab states back plans for a post-Hamas administration in Gaza. And crucially, it reveals that Trump has actually quietly expressed interest in reconstruction proposals put forward by Jared Kushner and Tony Blair.
Really? Quietly, though.
Quietly is the key word. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, Starmer's central problem isn't necessarily a complete rejection of these ideas by Trump privately.
It's getting him to say it out loud.
It's getting him to endorse such specifics in public. And the risk here is profound. If Trump doesn't publicly engage with these proposals, give that crucial U.S. backing.
Then what happens?
Well, Gulf states might just conclude that U.S. policy is effectively subcontracted to Netanyahu.
Ah, okay, that's a big deal.
It's a huge deal. It could destabilize alliances, make any lasting solution in Gaza even harder. It really highlights that key insight. Private curiosity doesn't equal public commitment.
And that distinction carries immense weight.
Massive weight on the world stage.
That's a huge distinction, yeah. Private curiosity versus public endorsement points to the constant challenge, turning interest into action.
Always the challenge in diplomacy.
But on Ukraine, maybe?
Yeah.
We saw a glimmer of potential progress, didn't we?
There were some interesting signs, yes.
Here's where it truly gets interesting, I think. Trump reportedly admitted feeling let down by Putin.
That's a significant phrase, let down.
And he also conceded that the war was harder to solve than he had imagined. Now, Starmer, wisely, resisted the temptation to say, "I told you so."
Not move.
Probably sound diplomacy, yeah. And instead warned that Russia's latest attacks showed new recklessness and demanded stronger pressure. This felt like a moment of strategic opportunity, a potential crack.
It absolutely was a pivotal moment, and a significant crack, potentially, in Trump's often solid perception of Putin. His shifting perspective, even if subtle, presents a possible opening for Western diplomacy.
So what was his reply?
Well, his reply, while described as cautious, still offered a path forward. He said, "I'm willing to do other things." But then he immediately argued that European nations still buying Russian oil undercut his leverage.
Ah, the oil argument. Was that new information for him, do you think, or just a convenient excuse?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? Was it fresh information to Trump or a convenient excuse for maybe not escalating pressure? Either way, it highlights an urgent strategic priority for Starmer and for Europe.
Closing the oil lifeline.
Exactly. To close down the oil lifeline faster, Ursula von der Leyen has already vowed to accelerate the EU's plan to cut dependence on Russian energy well before 2028.
So the pressure's already building there.
It is. And this isn't just about sanctions. It's about fundamentally undermining Russia's ability to wage war. And importantly, Trump himself acknowledged that lower oil prices could push Putin toward compromise.
Ah, so he sees the connection.
He seems to. And that's a line Starmer will undoubtedly seize upon. This acknowledgement provides a critical point of leverage, a potential shared objective, even if the motivations might differ.
Okay, so after covering the careful public dance and the intense private struggles, what does all of this mean for the immediate future of global relations?
It's a complex picture.
The core risk, as our source material lays out, is simple, isn't it? If Trump disengages from Ukraine, the entire Western strategy falters, and Starmer cannot allow that.
Absolutely cannot allow that.
So his ongoing task is incredibly complex. To keep Trump moving, however reluctantly, toward real pressure on Moscow, while drawing him away from Netanyahu's orbit in the Middle East. It's a tightrope walk with truly global implications.
It is indeed. And this raises an important question, doesn't it, about the lasting implications of these kinds of fragile diplomatic maneuvers on global stability.
How fragile is it?
Well, while the optics of the visit may have been calm, as the source says, the underlying geopolitical stakes could not be higher. This isn't a one-off negotiation that's finished.
No, it's ongoing.
It's an ongoing mission to influence a powerful figure on issues that could reshape international alliances, global conflicts for years to come. The gravity of this diplomatic tightrope walk. It just can't be overstated. Starmer's ability to find and cultivate even the smallest areas of common ground will be tested repeatedly.
And the stability of whole regions depends on it.
Regions far beyond the UK will depend on his success, or lack thereof.
It really is a testament to the continuous, often unseen work of diplomacy, even when it's not making the flashy headlines. Starmer's mission to influence Trump on these critical global issues, well, it's as challenging as it is vital.
Indeed. And it makes you consider, doesn't it, how global leadership dynamics can sometimes hinge on these seemingly personal shifts.
Right.
Like one leader admitting to feeling let down by another.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
What does that suggest about the interplay between individual perceptions, personal trust or its absence, and national policies on the world stage? How much of geopolitics is truly decided in those private behind-the-scenes interactions based on these very human reactions, rather than just in grand public pronouncements?
A profound question to ponder. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the complex world of high-stakes diplomacy. We hope you feel a little more well-informed about the hidden currents beneath the headlines.